Hey guys, I just want to fit another round robin video in, sort of kind of just clear the plate of comments before I release the next video. So here we go. Okay, we're going to whip up the time machine and jump back in time a little and go ahead and bring out this point that Model Man Tom made. Result, $25 single action airbrush thrown away, no saving it. Very glad I screwed up on such a cheap airbrush, and an excellent reason not to go expensive on your first airbrush. Learn on a cheap brush, go pro when you're more competent. I was talking to Les on the phone, as well as I think Sveinhunden mentioned it as well, is that they disagree. They suggest that you go with a more, the expensive stuff or mid-level expensive stuff. That way you don't have to go back and get a new airbrush when you've gone pro or whatever it is, right? Now here's the thing. I'm usually in the mindset of getting the best and learning from the best, regardless if you mess up or not. To mess up an airbrush, you really have to mess it up. That is really the only scenario where you use wrong thinner, get it all gunked up and messed up to the point where you just can't clean it, and you end up throwing it away and getting a new airbrush. Getting to that point, it takes a lot. That is the only scenario that I think that would cause you to throw away an airbrush. Otherwise, it's really hard to mess up an airbrush, short of you dropping it in an active garbage disposal, throwing it into a volcano, or using it as a butt plug. Whatever, right? You should be safe going with a medium level or really good expensive airbrush, just to learn from it. Again, preference. If you think you're gonna just try out airbrushing, then yeah, get a cheap airbrush or whatever, and then you could try it out, just so you could see how it works out for you. Because airbrushing is not for everyone. If you think you're gonna stick with airbrushing, now I'm gonna tell you right now, you are going to evolve in it, and you're going to get better airbrushes and stuff like that. I started out with that really cheap plastic black airbrush just to play around with it. Then I got the single action NH200 from Badger, and then went from there to the Patriot, and then from the Patriot went to the Renegade Velocity, and I probably won't stop there. Again, it is an adventure with this tool. I mean, you just grow with it. So again, up to you. Okay, there's something I did forget to mention, which is air hoses. When you're buying your airbrush setup and you're buying a compressor that doesn't come in with air hose, or a airbrush set that doesn't come in with an air hose, then you're going to have to buy an air hose by itself. Now, when it comes to air hoses for major brands in the market, it's the generic Awada, Badger, and Posh that I know of. Okay, and there's 4 different air hoses. Now, I did run into this problem when I had to buy an air hose for the CO2 tank, and I realized that there are like 4 different types of hoses out there to fit these 4 different types of brushes. I'm not sure what the Steinbeck uses, which type of hose Steinbeck uses, but if you're going to have to buy a hose, then you're going to have to buy a hose that fits your brush. Or you could buy a hose of any brush and get an adapter that fits from the hose to the brush. The adapter is really small. It looks, here we go, like that. That middle piece right there is an adapter from the water hose to a Badger airbrush. Now, this compressor here, the Smart Jet, came with all the adapters for other airbrushes, so that's kind of really cool. So just keep that in mind. Okay, I did mention that I mixed with Windex. Apparently, I guess, again, I live in the U.S. Outside of the U.S., Windex is not available everywhere. So people have been asking, well, what the heck is Windex and where you get it? So here we go. Mel Thornall posted, dude, you can make your own Windex. 4 ounces of 0.5% ammonia, 16 ounces of rubbing alcohol, 1 teaspoon of dishwashing liquid for perfume, water that down to a gallon, and you should be set. Windex, basically ammonia mixed with alcohol and water water solvents. And then he went to say, yeah, it's more really for cheap people or people who don't live in North America. Making it from scratch is really cheap, though. It's like 25 cents ammonia, $2 of alcohol, and $1 distilled water plus a tiny bit of soap. Okay, so you can make your own Windex, and it's cheap. So here we go again. Here is the recipe plastered on the screen here. 4 ounces of 0.5% ammonia, 16 ounces of rubbing alcohol, 1 tablespoon of dishwashing liquid for perfume. Now again, if you're going to mix it with for airbrushing, then you probably might not need the 1 tablespoon of dishwashing liquid. Alright, Yam Bam Bro, hi again. I'm planning on using acrylic paints and thinning them by water. I know she mentioned normal tap water won't leave residue. Can you filter the water using Brita filter or coffee filter? Then Eagle posted, I use distilled water sometimes as a thinner. Distilled can be bought or just boil a kettle and let cool. Now I don't think you could just boil the kettle and let it cool, because the minerals will still be in the water or on the side of the kettle, which will just drop back in the water. I've distilled water before, and it's a long, painful, slow process. What you do is hook up a pot. I put in a vegetable steamer on top, right? Put a cup inside, flip the lid upside down so that the lid concaves down, so the steam buildup can drop into the cup. Put a pack of ice on top and just boil the water. That took like 4 or 5 hours just to get about a bottle full of distilled water like this. Okay, spend 15 minutes, drive to the store, pick up a gallon of distilled water like this, okay, for about $1, $1.25. Drive back home. In 15 minutes you get a gallon of it. So go to the damn store and just buy a bottle of distilled water. There's no point in rigging up a distilled water system and distilling the water yourself. It'll just take forever. Okay, the Sci-Fi Mauler wrote, you mentioned that you buy most of your stuff online. Unfortunately, we here in New York State have no place that carries any good in the modeling field except those little tester bottles, which are usually the crappiest color you can imagine. I found one place online that shows individual Vallejo paints but don't not sell them anymore. Can you please recommend a website where I might be able to purchase supplies? I would like some place to buy paints, Vallejo and Tamiya, pigments, washes, etc. Here are some websites that I ordered this stuff from. You get it from Squadron.com, get it from SprueBrothers.com, get it from ElmCityHobbies.com, MiniatureMarket.com, which I highly recommend too for war gamers. The War Store carries some stuff as well, and most of the stuff nowadays I buy directly from dealer from the AwesomePaintJob store, which will be coming up online very, very soon. And Modelman Tom wrote, another note I was going to mention on filling tanks is that the compressor can only fill up to its limit, not the tank's limit. Just something to keep in mind. So a 30 psi compressor will only let you fill the biggest tank up to 30 psi. You could take that tank to the gas station, for example, and then top it off, but the compressor is the limiting factor in that scenario. Yeah, the point that I didn't point out was that if you get a 5-gallon, 10-gallon tank that could support up to 100 psi's, it will only fill up to the psi's that the air source is coming from. Okay, so if I hook this compressor up to air tank and the highest psi's that'll fill up to 60 psi's, then 60 psi's will be sitting in the air tank, and that's what's coming out of the air tank. Okay, Viper 29CA, compressors with the tank can get a buildup of water in the tank. It's natural when putting air under pressure, hence the water trap. Most compressors with tanks also have a valve at the bottom of the tank to drain any water. Good rule of thumb is to open the valve when you are done airbrushing to release any water. It may be minuscule, but the tank can cause it to rust, and the rust will find its way down to the airline to your to your paints. I believe that is true. I never had a problem with rusting on my air compressor, but here, yeah, you can see it on camera, is the air trap. And what you do is just twist this little thing here, and it'll drop any moisture that's currently caught in the air trap here. Okay, Les from AwesomePaintJob wrote, nitrous industrial NO2 has an irritant added to it. It's not like medical NO2 where you feel funny and pass out. You will know. So I wouldn't suggest NO2. CO2 displaces oxygen. Those two mentioned are bad ideas if you keep tanks in the house. If it leaks while you're sleeping, bad times. Stay good with good old air compressor air if possible. My 2 cents. But yeah, okay. Didn't know about the nitrous because I really never filled up nitrous before, and I'm not a dentist. If I was a dentist, people would be in trouble because I'm a sadistic bastard. The tanks, keeping tanks in the house, never had a problem with it. But but I am the type of guy that kind of, you know, imagines the worst scenario while I'm doing something, and then that kind of wards me off from doing it or think twice before doing it. And every time I do use my tanks, I always imagine the tank falling over, the valve breaking, and having a missile go through my house. That's some scary thoughts, but there is dangers in using CO2 tanks, but it's really easy to counteract. Just make a rack for it where the tanks will sit snug into it, and then attach it to the wall or to your desk or something, so that you could minimize the possibilities of it falling over. Okay, that's very important. If it falls over, valve can break, and you'll, like I said, you'll have a missile going through your house. It can be very dangerous. Having it leak and fill up your room, a 5-gallon tank, I don't think you really have to worry about it unless you're sleeping in a closet, and you're one of those poor child that grew up living in a closet because you have really messed up parents. Then yeah, don't put your CO2 tank in your closet while you're sleeping. Alright guys, I think that's it. I just wanted to clear up the table for the next video comes out, and yeah, if you have any questions, comments, or whatever, again, post them. We'll get them in the next round robin. The reasons why I am doing these round robins, I know it just seems like just babble videos, but it really is to just get all the information out there for the people who are getting the airbrushing. Also gives an excuse for, you know, my friends and stuff that airbrushes to chime in, just so I don't mess up, because sometimes I don't know it all, and you know, I might mess up. I say something stupid. They're there to help and correct it. Yeah, so that's it. Just go ahead and like YouTube stuff, subscribe, comment, like. Just let me know that I'm not alone out there in the world, that I'm not doing this for nothing. And also let me know that there are still people out there in the world, because right now I just woke up. It's early in the morning. My worst fear is that I slept through a asteroid storm or comic storm, and then I wake up to a world that's not there anymore, and it's just because there's no people out there right now, and it's all empty, parked cars, and I'm afraid I'll like walk outside and just like scream, hear my own echoes, and then just be chased by freaking slumbering zombies. For more tutorial videos on how to paint your figures, check out Les's channel at AwesomePaintJob. For cool terrain tips and tutorials, check out Chris at Terrainoob.